whether an action is considered right or wrong, not the particular action. In other words, we have to know what it means or what the determination, the determinant of a right action is before we can know if this particular action is a right one or a wrong one. There is something about this particular action that makes us call it what? A right action. For instance, giving to the poor, okay, telling the truth. These are particular actions. But what about it makes it right? Okay, so when we are engaged in ethics, we are looking for the criteria, that criteria that helps us to determine whether rightness means A or it means B, or wrongness means B or it means A. So that is very important so that you don't think of ethics as an arbitrary thing. If it fits me, then I say it's a right action. If it doesn't fit me, then I say it's a wrong action. No, it's the principle, the criteria. I don't want to sound too technical, but the connotation, that which connotes rightness and wrongness, is what is our focus, not the denotation, not the particular instances. Because if we know the criteria, then we are able to apply it to particular instances to tell whether they are right or wrong. Okay, so that is a focus in our current discussion on ethics. We will help ourselves know whether an action is right or wrong by working ourselves through the principles that ground rightness or wrongness of an action. So that is what ethics will be focused on. Now, on the outline, you also see ethics and morality, the distinction, or what is the connection. Now, if we go to the slide, you see that the two terms have been used interchangeably, and oftentimes we will do that. But because we are doing philosophy, we have to point up a possible apparent difference that is subtle, oftentimes overlooked. So people talk about morality as if it necessarily connotes ethics. Not all the time, at least from Kwame Gyekye's view. You could distinguish the ethical from the moral. So what then makes one the moral? When we talk morality, it oftentimes has local coloration, contextualized interpretation. The morality of the church, the morality of the nation, the ethnic group. So what is acceptable morally may vary from place to place morally. That is why sometimes certain viewpoint norms, point of views, practices seem okay for certain groups of people, but for others it is not. It's not morally acceptable. And yet, okay, I gave quite a number of examples I'll put in the recording, the previous one that I've shared with you, yesterday classes that I have. When you play it, you get quite a number of them. You see, the point is, how would you enter into a traditional person's setting and be addressing them by their first name? You know, your grandfather, then you say Richmond. If your grandfather is called Richmond, then you say Richmond. How are you? And stuff like that. That one is not acceptable in our setting. It's morally unacceptable. There are certain places you cannot even greet standing. You would have to greet lying prostrate, especially if you are greeting an elderly folk. You can go and stand before the two folk, for instance, and say, Nana, yeah, you look fine in your clothing. I mean, yeah, you won't do that. It's not acceptable, morally speaking. I mean, no one will arrest you, but it's not acceptable. So the morality of actions or inactions may vary. That is a possible distinction you can make between the moral versus the ethical. Okay, it may vary. I mean, if you go to the religious settings, some are allowed to marry up to 5, I think, so far as you can take care of the ladies and avoid conflicts and what have you. For others, it is not acceptable. It is wrong, morally speaking, for that context, for that religious group, for that ethnic group, and so on. So, because we are doing philosophy, it is important to show that some things or some actions, some norms may be acceptable morally. Why are we struggling with LGBTQ in African settings? I mean, for one nation to even outwardly say we don't, then it looks like the person is a hero. Because the whole continent is struggling to come to terms with how on earth you see that can people of same sex think that they can be a couple. It's not acceptable morally. You see, perhaps the hard work that has to be done is to make a legal case for these positions either way, and entrench them. So but this is not an issue at all in non-African or if you like Western settings, Euro-Anglophone. When I say that the European and the English, Western settings. Why? Because what is morally? So you see, you have to get the difference so that you don't confuse necessarily the ethical with the moral. You may use the terms interchangeably, just like others do, but then you are minded that what is ethical then is the one that transcends all settings. Acceptable behavior, yes, but it is so for all societies, all contexts. When I say societies, it includes religious societies, academic societies, national societies, so nations, people, places. That principle is a fundamental one. It transcends. So when you read Just Beyond Cultures, we are explaining the second outline before we go to the slides on your screen now. So ethics and morality, that's what we are looking at. Ethical standards are not locally colored. They don't have any local colors. You can say, well, so here we do this, here we do. So which standards can we call ethical? Transcultural values. Trans means they go beyond it. Which values? Kwame Chechi makes a very strong argument. He says, look, there is no human society anywhere surviving and flourishing. That is a society that continues to exist, any society anywhere, which will endorse, say, indiscriminate killing. The society says we value killing of human beings indiscriminately. We just kill and we clap for people who kill. We kill ourselves. That's our value. We value it. Which society will do that? The society that endorses and values such a practice, such a belief, will not continue existing. It will go extinct. It won't be a society again. Meaning then that what? Potentially, if a society anywhere continues to exist, then that society will already admit, value, cherish human life and its flourishing and its well-being. You see, the society will say that human life is utmost. It's important to preserve it, work towards its well-being, its flourishing. And so this value of human life, or value for the well-being of life, human beings, will be a universal, objective, transcultural value. It will transcend cultures. Whether I am from so-and-so place or you are from so-and-so place, we will each necessarily, by the meaning of society, already appreciate and value what human life, its preservation, its flourishing, its well-being. If so, then this is an ethical standard. It's not a moral standard, as we have defined it a moment ago. So the value for human life will be a standard that every culture, every religion, every whatever contest will appeal to whether this thing augurs well for the well-being of the human person, human life. So the value for human life, Jechi calls them human values, are not locally colored. So I can be in my culture, in my religion, in my community, and query and raise questions about other person's community or religion or context. If, there we go, listen, if I'm appealing to a standard that transcends cultures, you see that. So the ethical principle, one other principle is not just the human value for human life, which will mean then that you cannot endorse indiscriminate killing. You can sit at home and say, how can these people just say that you can kill each other? It won't even be possible. my brother or sister, because that society wouldn't even, they will kill themselves and value it. They will just maybe there will be only one person left if he killed all the other. How would that be a society which is now coming to say, let us do things the way we want? You won't even continue existing as a society to come and ask for your way of life. See, the same with telling lies. Can we have any society that says we value and we consider worthwhile the telling of lies? Which society does that? we are freely lying to each other and we value it. But that is what we want our children to grow up to become, liars. How will that society embark on anything worthwhile? Who will take their daughter to which church for who to say I for better, for worse? When we have agreed that we will lie to each other, who will contract with anyone in a business? Lying as a value can't be possible in any human society. This is not my argument. Don't give me facts. It's Kwame Jechi's argument. Very sound. So if there is a society, a culture, a religious group, a business association, whatever, anywhere at all, then there are certain principles, says Jechi, certain values, certain fundamental presuppositions that must already have been held up by them. And so any human society existing and functioning, that's the condition. It should be existing and it should be a functioning society. If it is functioning, then it already would what? Hold on to the principle of telling the truth as a value, which is human in nature. The principle of what? Avoiding indiscriminate killing. Indiscriminate means you don't, like you don't selectively kill. Maybe something happened and no, you are killing. Killing is a value. You don't discriminate. So indiscriminate killing. Which society will endorse that? And so on and so forth. There are others that are added. Now, so there is a possible conception of what? Principles. If you're making your notes, you should be writing some things down. Okay. Principles, values, that what? Transcend any specificity. Specificity here refers to any religious group, any cultural group, any national, whatever, any gender. You say this for women, that's for men. My friend, man or woman, we are humans. And certain values be what a must cut across. And so we all humans as we are can appeal to them. Hold on. So that if you understand this, we'll go to the next topic where we delve a bit more into ethical relativism and cultural relativism. You would see the point that is being made there, the cultural differences, then why ethical relativism may not be defensible after all, even though cultural relativism is. Cultures are different, they're not the same, and you can't pretend about them. But should they be, when it comes to their rightness or wrongness, should it be a decision by the particular culture? So we decide that we are 3 years, you a girl at 3 years. Before you even grow up, we have given you away to an elderly man as a husband, so he can give us a farm. Really? Oh yes. Why? Because that's how we do things. That's our culture. So the girl doesn't have rights to decide who she will live with. At 3 years, she already has a husband. 56 years, she's 3. This is a human issue. It is not a cultural issue. Because the person is going to live with the man. She will smell that boku. She will see the man's tattered face. She doesn't love the guy. You have already put her there before she could even say Jack. God created that. Did he do that to us? He could have created us to be programmed to worship him every day. Is that what God did? How much more a human being? No choice. No sense of choice at all. No respect for the dignity of the girl. So it is not a question of don't come and say something. You don't understand our culture. It's not understanding any culture. It's a human issue, says Jeshi. And it's an ethical matter that must be taken up. Of course, tactfully, because sometimes it is a point of view matter. So you have the person see it that way. At other times, it's a human right issue that the laws must grab the people and put them. Another one is someone goes to steal his thing. These things are not far-fetched. I'm sure those who do social and social and social work and those who deal with human institutions and whatever, you know what I'm saying? NGOs. Huh? It's not far-fetched at all. Someone has gone to steal, if I understand that culture very well. Then maybe he has even died and he didn't pay. Then when his grandchild or something is born, then she or he, I don't know if the he side, but I think it's a she thing. Then the she at 5, 6, 7 years has to go and serve to pay for it. What? I'm sure that's what someone is saying. And then when you want to query that, you say, oh, but this is not, they say, please, don't come and impose your culture on us. Don't come and impose your culture on us. This is how we live. Who told you? That is a cultural difference. You are different from me culturally, no problem. But should that behavior be acceptable? That is what is happening when we talk about cultural relativism being okay. When you argue that cultures are different, no problem. But when you translate that to mean ethics is relative, ethical relativism, then we will all look at you and say, no, Papa, that one won't wash. There is a critique. So you see that in the next topic, the continuation of our ethical lessons, where we look at those kinds of questions about determining the standard of right and wrong. Okay, something that we should have. So if your culture thinks I'm sausage, I'm food. In other words, you eat human flesh. I should say, we should allow you to do what you are doing. Then when I'm passing, you take your fork and knife ready to cut me into pieces. I have to allow myself. Will I? When my culture says no, human beings are not sausage. So there is a potential challenge if you endorsed ethical relativism. You see, let every culture do what they think is right for them. That is different from saying cultures are different. How we greet is different. Some greet by saluting. Some can use their left hand to greet their uncles and everything. And it's not rude, it's not immoral. It's just the way they do. Some will not accept a handshake. You have to lie prostrate, grandpa. Not in Ghana, for example, I know that. Even the woman, the wife, you would have to bend a little. Don't stand straight and greet like this. It's very disrespectful. How do people bury their dead? Different ways, culturally. Some bend them. Go to the Eastern religion. They don't keep bodies like that. Look at some of ours. It's in the fridge for 6 months. If it's very renowned, some stay, yes, it's a fridge, body, the kunko thing. The tin, not the milk. The milk is finished. The tin, the container. Exactly. The container is in the fridge. 6 months. You see. So, but how do you, that's difference. It's not killing you. If it doesn't kill me, it doesn't kill you. Well, you keep it there. People dress up differently. I'm showing you differences, background, what? Cultures, which you can't deny. If you deny, then you yourself, you don't exist on it. Cultures are not the same. So that is not the issue at all. Philosophers have no challenge with that. If you say cultures are different, people are different in how they live, then you have to respect the difference. We do our cloth. Others wear suit, latte, because we don't have snow in Ghana, dear friends. But some do have snow. So they can wear cloth in the snow. They will freeze to death. You think God is not wise? But you too, you can't wear suit, latte in the sun all the time, like some people do. And we have been, I shudder to say, colonized to think. Look at your weather. Okay, I don't know if some of you were old enough to know of Acapulco Bay. It was a telenovela like the ones we watch. You look at the telenovelas, nations that find themselves at sunny, beachy areas. Look at how the ladies dress. It is the environment. Some of the things are very short and elegant. Because the place is hot in Yanum and it's beach throughout. So if it looks fine, but you don't go and import that into your snow area and think you are being chic. Listen, people dress differently, people eat differently. Take note. You see the way I'm teaching? If you follow, you are covering a lot of grounds just on the outline. What you call a delicacy is someone thinks is starch. You're busily pounding food to. Then you add, palm fruit, palm nut soup, then goat meat, then you alone, they think you're eating starch. Just like you might also think that someone is just chewing goat's grass. Grass, what you call salad, is goat food. Someone will think, I want food to eat. Am I going to chew? You see that? Because we are different. Some eat frog. Don't you know? Frog is a delicacy for some people. Follow the gentleman who is traveling to eat. You will see people's meals, lizard, insects, crocodile, snake, dog. Whoa. Meow, Joseph cat is food for someone. But why am I using all those? I'm using all those because people listen. I just want to show you that you can't force people, listen, to be like you. When it comes to the differences, we are different culturally. How we do things are different. How we worship is different. How we, our history. So the fact of cultural difference is not in contention. But when it comes to the morality, now, if that confuses you, let's use, when it comes to the ethics, the rightness or wrongness of what we are doing, it is not the culture that decides that, or the cultural principles or practices that determines that. No, then we will have chaos. Some higher standard must come to play, and that is what allows the very cultural, the members of that very culture, to change things with time. It has to be a higher standard outside of the cultural norms and practices that we will appeal to, even if we are members of that culture. If it is just the culture that is defining good and bad, then we couldn't have changed anything. But people in the past may have been indulging in human sacrifice, so we get good harvest, kill 3 or 4 orphans, virgins, so that there will be bountiful harvest. Now, perhaps the same culture and its members have stopped that. How is that possible? Internal criticism of our cultural values is possible. How? Because the people, even though participants of that culture, can appeal to a higher standard where they say, this one doesn't help us as human beings. They are appealing to something about our humanness. You see that? To say that we may have an alternative way. Maybe fertilizer is what we need, more fertilizer. See how I said it? Not human beings that are being killed. And so what? So internal criticism of cultures, if possible, that is possible, then it means there is a higher standard appealed to determine right and wrong in every culture. So what? So the morality, back to our point 2, I went to elaborate a bit more on something you will need in future, but which helps you get the point being made here. And I'm back. Note that what is morally acceptable, as soon as you hear that, there's a contextualization of a kind. It might be a religious one, I told you. Some religions accept sacrifices of both humans and animals. If humans are too far for you, think of animals. Animal sacrifice. They burn it live. You see that? Some burn human beings. Okay, if you think that's too far, look inside the Bible. Molech. They will sacrifice babies so that we don't have to look for any society on earth and be accountable. Look into the Bible, recounting what was happening. The god called Molech, and how it wanted what? Babies. Sacrifice babies to it. So at least we can reference that. Human beings in the name of religion. Okay. What then is the point? We cannot endorse that. It may be acceptable to one group, but the ethical standard, how many have I recounted so far? About 2 or 3 of them. There are so many, and they will be the consequence for other such ethical values. Because we want to preserve human life and its well-being, then we would want to, for example, sustain a functioning home. Family, the sense of family will be appreciated. Why? Because it's essential to the human well-being. See how we generate the values? Yes. So having a family setting is not an option. Otherwise, the human being will grow like an hermit. You are not an hermit. You are a social being. So a home setting is important. That's why when we find a child, street child or orphan, they create a foster home. So having that becomes a value. See how you generate the values, respect for people's opinions and point of view is important. Why? Because of the dignity of a human being. Why should we be concerned about the dignity of a, because a human being has value? So at the end of the day, it goes around and comes back to the same. That is what helps us generate the practical, applications of what is worthwhile ethically, what is not worthwhile ethically. Why would we allow freedom of speech? Why would we allow for all these? So they keep coming. It's because of the focus on generating, or if you like, preserving human life and its well-being, which we have logically argued to show that it is a necessity to any surviving existing human society. Okay, so ethics on your screen again, ethics and morality. Then we'll see that the ethical is not necessarily the legal. Something can be ethically acceptable and yet the law frowns on it, or the law it doesn't coincide with it. I'll give you some examples shortly. The law may accept something as okay, that is ethically not okay. That's the point I'm making. Like killing is self-defense. If the person wanted to rape you, you lifted your high heel, you hit his face, and then the guy falls down dead. You didn't plan to go and kill the person. Yes, he's an arm robber, shot people in the room. They killed plenty people, taking monies. Then when he saw your fine body, he thought he can also steal your body in addition to the money and everything. You were running and entering places after you, put your shoe, bang, the guy is dead. CCTV camera captures everything. Saw how he has killed some of the girls in there. God forbid, though, I'm just giving you a scenario, the hostel thing. People will even come and clap for you, and give you eggs. Say, God has been good to you. You are alive. So legally, perhaps so. I'm not a lawyer. Perhaps you may go unpunished. But morally, ethically, you have killed. Killing is never, ever morally, or if you like, ethically right. You see that I'm now using them interchangeably. I've done the job of separating them. Now I can switch. Listen, it is ethically unacceptable. So some things are justified by the law, but they are not what ethically acceptable. The law was what fostered what apartheid in Africa, South Africa. It was legal to have separate places of worship for whites and blacks. It was legal to have black train and white train, if there was one at all. It was legal to have a playground for only white children and another for blacks. In apartheid Africa, I'm talking. The law endorsed that. That's the point. Martin Luther King Jr.'s, I don't know how to say it, a letter from Birmingham jail recounted how the blacks were being tormented, if you like, disrespected by the law in your own and my own the place we like to talk about when it comes to human rights, America. You see, women couldn't vote and blacks couldn't vote. Even the churches couldn't host both blacks and whites together. The Holy Spirit couldn't descend if both the blacks and whites were in the church. You have to get these things. It was the law in Adolf Hitler's Germany that the Semite, the Jew, cannot continue living. If the person is a Jew, he must become obituary. I'm just trying to be very blunt to show you that don't think that because the law said it, no one teaches it is right. The law could be wrong. That's why the laws of the land are reviewed. They are reviewed. There's constitutional review because we reflectively look at how it benefits or augurs well or otherwise for what? Human well-being. Why human? Because wherever we are on earth, we are humans. Whether green color or yellow color, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, we are fundamentally what? Humans. And so human values are key in interpreting the rightness or wrongness of the laws. Legal is from the word law, or the religion. Look at the other side of the outline there. Religion. So I like to say this, and sometimes when people are a bit like, it looks like, oh, but this one is not, I refer you to the authority the authority text. I say authority because a good number of us believe we are people of faith, Christian, Muslim, Kanka, Krishna, whatever it is, The old, if it did not have problems, says the Bible now, the new wouldn't have come. If the old didn't have, this is Hebrew, I'm quoting Hebrew, the book of Hebrew, If the old didn't have challenge, the new wouldn't have come. The old law, the old testament, the old covenant agreement, the old contract, the old will, if it didn't have its challenge, the new wouldn't have come. Now, that doesn't mean the old was useless. No. It's like Asanka, the masher pot, and the blender. There are things that, because of the exigencies of the time, you will need the blender to do. You want to serve 1,000 people at a reception, and you are doing banquet and tilapia, and also doing, all the other dishes for 1,000 people. How do you use the masher pot to do the pepper? When you have 20 minutes to start the serving, it can do it. Not that it can't. It can. But look at how much time, sweat, delay, how smooth would the seats be? So the blender, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, receives and sends calls, just like the Nokia 3310. I don't even know if there is Nokia 3310. They all send and receive call. But why is it that you are keen on getting the iPhone 14 Pro Max? Because of what else it can do. Now, so when you hear the expression, you do not know the covenant that you are of. I'm not addressing the Christian text. Okay. You hear that telling you that you don't even know the kind of spirit you are of. They said, let us call fire from heaven to burn the people. They didn't listen to us. He says, hey, steady. You people, you don't know the kind. It means that there's been a transition in, just like a constitutional review, just like an updated version of something. It doesn't mean the old one is useless. You can still use it. I can go online and read notices easily, read and know all the newspaper headlines in about 5-10 minutes. I can also wait for the newspaper vendor to bring me the hard document and put at the office down there. Then we'll go and pick it one. When I have it, the other person has to wait. When I finish, then the other colleague will say, oh, the dailies, you have it? I say, yes. And then you also go. Once 6 others are in the queue. Meanwhile, if it is online, the same newspaper, 30 of us at once, 500,000 million of us, we all read the same thing at the same time. So what is the point we are making? Trying to show you that laws, when you hear it is a law, you say, oh, me, the law is a law that said that I'm the rightful, the one that should inherit the property. Isn't necessarily right. That is why we are doing what we are doing. The philosopher reflects and asks questions and prefers what alternative responses. We just want you to be minded. Still on our outline. See how long I'm spending time here because of how I'm asking you questions. I don't. If I just want to go through slides, I'll be done. I want you to have concreteness to the points that have been highlighted there. So the ethical may not necessarily, may is the word, it may, but it may not necessarily coincide with the legal, and it may not necessarily coincide with the religious. And that is why something may be religiously acceptable, but may not be ethical. So before long, God himself may be reviewing and prompting. And when he's prompting, then the people that he's working with don't want to hear because they want the old ways. I told your friends, I don't know if that is also in the report, one of the sessions I had. I said, look, both Christianity and Islam start from what? Father Abraham. Ibrahim, that is in the Muslim language. Father Abraham. Look at the narrative. One is the firstborn son. But he was asked to be sent home. If you look at the Christian version, send the boy and the mother away, says Sarah. I don't know how the Islam version says. But he says, send it. The boy is the man's firstborn child that you, Auntie Sarah, said you should go and sleep with the house girl to clean your shame. You see, the problem with Abraham was when the woman said that, then he went to ask God. And God said, you have a covenant. Do you know what I've told you? I've told you that at the right time, I'll give you a son. I told you this 25 years ago. You were 75 years. You, Abraham. You have come to ask me. It means that it looks like, but you trust me. It looks like you don't trust me. So go and listen to your wife. That is what it was. It was a retort. Go and listen to your wife. Abraham, he himself now, he wanted to consider it already. He just wanted gratification. You know, the way people are doing fasting, they want to break their fast and they say, God, you know that the diabetes, you say we should use our wisdom. So I don't know. Like I eat a little sugar. What do you think? What do you think, say? What did God say? He said, go and ask your wife. Then you listen to your wife. And you went to sleep with a woman. They ask. The child is yours. The woman, your wife, knows that this is your child. She endorsed it. In fact, she did they set the bed nicely for you to get a good time with Hagar. And you have a firstborn son. Listen, I'm trying to show you ethics and I'm showing you what is right, even religiously. The religion, or if I say religion, what faith is telling you may have ethical implications. That's why the question I asked in the main sessions, I said, is an action right because the gods say it is right? Or the gods say an action is right because the action is right. If you didn't get it, then you don't see. The one is antecedent, the other is consequent. Listen, is it because the action is right? That is why even the gods endorse it as right? Or it is the gods endorsing the action as right that makes it right? This is a philosophical, what is the expression, paradox or conundrum or something like that, called the Beautiful. This is Socrates' supposed dialogue with Beautiful, trying to find out what makes an action right. I think ultimately the point that was made was, look, the thing is already right. Its rightness or wrongness is not as a result of what the God said. It has its intrinsic rightness and wrongness for it to attract even what the God said. So that you don't say because you don't believe in any God, then for you, right or wrong there, you decide it. You lie. The thing's intrinsic worth is there, even if you don't believe in any deity. So we roll back. Now you have sacked the man's first son. When she felt troubled, and she had her own, really, after she had her own. And some mothers do that. When they didn't have their own child, they will go for a foster child and treat the child like something until they get their own. Then they forget that this child came to clean their disgrace. Now they want to discriminate and show which is what. That's what I think happened with Sarah. I'm saying all this, I'm a Christian and a vowed one. I preach what I'm saying. My faith, I preach it, but I'm doing an analysis ethically of what happened. And then I'll show you how it is that even God, at least from a Christian perspective, had to intervene because he thought that this may be legal, but it's not right. So he had to intervene in a way. Then we continue. Listen, they sacked the guy and the mother away with nothing. This is the man's firstborn child. The firstborn is supposed to inherit the father. You think Sarah didn't know? But where does Isaac come in? God's agenda with Abraham, at least as presented by the Christian scripture, is I am going to give you a promised child. The idea one odi and listen, the one who is entitled to something is the one that eats the food, not the one who is hungry, not a hungry man. In other words, if we were going by what was communicated to Abraham, there is a rightful person. That's where the Christian version comes in. The rightful person being the child of promise. When God was saying that, he was speaking to a married man called Abraham, who had a wife, not a slave girl. You don't marry your slave, you marry your wife. But if the wife says, sleep with my slave, it is the wife's mandate that she has passed, just like the people did in the garden. People, ethics. So there's not a controversy that God doesn't, look, people don't know. He will not come and say, because of that, killed the first child. No, God is not, he's just. Listen. So when Abraham came with the trouble that they said I should sack the boy, what should I? They said, but the first one when you came with your trouble. I told you, go and ask your wife. Hey, you are listening to your wife. Go and ask her. This one you have brought it. Go and listen to what she said. That's what it meant. How often a seminar baby? Now I come to tell. I want to go far back from. Go and ask her. She's the one dictating to you. When I have given you an instruction, you say she says I should take the slave and get pregnant with her, and you have done that. Now that trouble has come, you have come to go and ask her again what you should do. Listen to her. She's the one you listen to, and so the boy is sad. But God intervenes. That is the part I'm showing you. Maintaining the law by making sure that the ethical is done. That's what the Christian Bible says. He intervened and sent an angel to go and take care of Hagar and Esau. What is the whole point? Ensuring that the right thing is done. Now look at the Gaza Strip. Israel, Hezbollah, whatever, at the Gaza Strip. This is thousands of years back. This is by 2000 and something, we are told. Before Jesus, it is still ongoing, people. The trouble that these people created, because what is ethically acceptable may not necessarily be what is legally acceptable. So the person is applying what the law said. What is the law here? I am contracting with you, Abraham. I'll give you a child who will be this, you'll be this, you'll be this. So that's an agreement sanctioned by the law. But the ethics of it, because they are going to do something else, that must also be considered. That's the problem. You think it is, we have come, these people are right, these people are wrong. It's a difficulty. Ethics and legalism. Let's go on to the next slide. I'm going to church this morning and back. I'm also going to the mosque and it. So the ethical versus the legal and the religious. Look at the next one. Then the branches of ethics. We will know how to think of the questions of ethics. That one, when we get there, then we'll read through them. Some are interested in the language of ethics. Some are interested in the theories. So when I do normative ethics, I'm looking at the theoretical frame, how the theories are formulated. You see that? Then when I do meta-ethics, I'm looking at the language, clarification, meaning. So when I'm doing meta-ethics, I'm doing ethics from an analytic approach. Now you understand that. I'm interrogating language of ethics. What do we mean by right? What does it mean to this? I'm doing that analysis of the terms and seeking clarification of ethical claims. But if I do normative ethics, I'm looking at the formulations of those what ethical theories and what have you. And then when I do applied ethics, like the name suggests, I'm now practically using those concepts. Then we'll look at an ethical question and go to a substantive ethical question in medicine. We'll focus on informed consent and patient autonomy. Should I, as a caregiver, I may be a doctor, a nurse, I may be the grandchild taking care of grandma who is incapacitated in terms of physique, paralyzed, but the brain and everything is intact, just that she can't move around. So I'm the one taking care of her. I become a caregiver. I may be a herbalist, tearing herbs, and applying on, some toupee or somebody who is. So I'm giving you a wide frame of what we have in mind when we are talking about caregiver. The caregiver is expected ethically to respect the autonomy of the person and yet ensure beneficence and non-maleficence. And that is the difficulty, the quandrum that someone may find himself or herself in. And so we'll use our ethical principles that we are studying to apply to such context and reflectively offer alternatives. I'm done with the whole presentation. Now we are going to go through them and make sure we mop up well and show you the pointers, and then we are done. Any questions before we take off? Esther's hand is up to read. So Esther, please go ahead. Read what I projected now. Very good.
This branch of ethics, this branch of philosophy engages questions of right and wrong, but What is right? What is good? Note that such a question is not concerned with particular instances of right action or intention. It is concerned with the criteria for determining good and right.
I said that already, so I just moved the slide up. We are concerned about criteria, not particular actions. If I know the criteria, I can determine the particular action, which is right or wrong. So that is it. It's a straightforward matter. My lady, read the next one. If you want to read, kindly raise your hand. So I'll have alternatives. Just keep the hand raised. I'll call you. Go ahead, Esther.
Ethics and morality. The terms ethics and morality have been used interchangeably, since they both relate to the question of rightness and wrongness of actions, conduct, and intentions. But whereas ethics is mainly used to connote principles of right and wrong, not necessarily restricted to a specific context, morality is often associated with prescriptions of right and wrong behavior for specific contexts, such as religious and culture.
Well done. So that one too, you can tell that I've over elaborated on that. I just want you to see it. So the moral, when we say something is morally acceptable, it might be morally acceptable for that religion, for that cultural group, for that nation, for that, you see that. So it is morally acceptable, yes, but you want to be careful not to think that what you are doing here will also be applicable in Rome, for example. Not necessarily. So morally acceptable may have its limits, at least according to Kwame Jechi's Beyond Cultures. That's what we put it there. Published year 2004. Thank you so much, my lady. Let's have Emmanuel read. Emmanuel Nkemenu, I think. Is that the name? Yeah, Nkemene. Go ahead, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is what is ethical necessarily legal or religious, and vice versa? What is ethical is not necessarily legal and vice versa. Okay. Reflection 1. Incest or sexual relations may be legal in certain contexts. That's religious, cultural countries. Yet condemnable in others, unethical but legal. Wait. Reflection 2. Donating to charity, legal and ethical. Reflection 3. Hiding Jews in Germany during the World War II, illegal but ethical. Reflection 4. First degree murder, unethical and illegal.
Excellent. Well read. Are you walking? My brother, are you moving
Yes,
from one place to
please.
the other? Oh, you went to the lecture hall, eh? Oh,
Yeah, I actually was
okay.
in a car, so I just got down going home.
Oh, and still you are engaged. Please watch the road, I beg you. Okay. Well
All
done.
right.
It was well read. All right. So what your friend just read, Emmanuel read, was this. For some people, incest is okay. Abraham was married to his cousin, Kole, Nunikebwe. So really, he wasn't lying when he said Sarah is his sister. Check the Bible, you see, there's quite a lot of that. But the point is, it is not unacceptable. Do you know how I use that? Because sometimes when you go and use someone's culture, physical culture right now, like if I go and say Ga or Fanti or whatever, the person they don't know and will think you are you are. So I use what we can all reference that we know. Some cultures accept incest. There is nothing wrong with it. I know some Ghanaian culture. If they marry outside, said then they will go and marry from home. The person may be their brothers, sisters, uncles, son. Blood, but it's okay. Blood relation. They don't see anything wrong with that. Azukwazim, sort of. Yet others frown on it. So there are certain actions. We are showing you something that is unethical but legally accepted. It's not right because even breeding animals, you don't want to breed. The same. The mother should be crossed by the male child or something. How? Okay, you are stronger when there are variations. So when you mix the two, then it's stronger. So it's unethical, but it's legally accepted by some. The second one is where something is legal and also ethical, like giving to the poor, donating to charity. The law applauds that. In fact, if you're a company, you do that a lot because it's social responsibility. You get tax evasions. Most of the taxes are taking off. Is that how tax cancellation, not evasion? Evasion means you are swerving it right now. So it is legally, praised, appreciated, approved upon, and also ethically so. But what about rape? Somebody asked me in class. Raping is frowned upon legally, is frowned upon ethically, is frowned upon culturally. Give me a religiously. So don't rape. If you want to contemplate rape, God have mercy on you. Or everybody will frown and look at you when you are coming. Okay, then the Jews one I told you about German. Then the first degree murder. You see, if you murder someone, it's illegal and it's unethical. But if you slaughter someone, you see the language has changed. In self-defense, it might be acceptable legally. Because the self-preservation is the first law of what? Nature. Everybody wants to preserve themselves. The whole thing about life is what? So you just found yourself living, and as soon as you know you are living, you want to preserve yourself. The day the baby landed from mommy's womb, he or she started looking for breast. It's amazing. Breast. Nobody teaches a child where to put the breast. Doesn't put it in the ear. The mouth collects it back, and then back to survive. Self-preservation. And so if you did that in self-defense so that your life will be preserved, legally it might be accepted, but ethically it might be wrong. Boss, please read that. Oh, Emmanuel, you're working. No, let someone else read, okay? You'll settle soon. So I take Tete Enima now. Ressa, I'll call you. I've seen Anaya. I see Opoku. Please take off your ID. Take off your ID, okay? Put your full name. So go ahead, Nanaya. No, I said Tete Enima. Tete Enima, right? Go ahead.
Is the ethical necessarily religious and vice versa? What is ethical is not necessarily religious and vice versa. Reflection 1. Some religions practice human or animal sacrifice as an offering, a ritual to appease or please a deity or god. This is variously condemned, religious but unethical. Reflection 2. Honesty in dealings with others, ethical and religious. Reflect.
So you can see that someone may not even know God, doesn't have any of the religious faiths, and yet will engage in business and will expect honesty on the part of his business partner. Not because God said so, for example, but because he feels that no, we must be honest with each other ethically. It's a business ethic. You can't lie to me that you have so and so in your account so we can partner. Then when I bring my 60%, bring your 40% as more, all you have is 20%. It's dishonesty, even in business, and we are not a church. Why would that be frowned upon? Because it's an ethical matter. It's not a religious matter yet. It may coincide because religion will also expect you to be honest. The culture will expect you to be honest. The law will expect you to be honest. But even if it's not any of them, ethically, honesty cannot be compromised. Okay, so ethical and also religious, it will even be cultural and also whatever. Very good. Let me take, lady, please read the last one for me, my dear. Then we can move on to someone else. Everything we are doing now, if you take note in the outline, I elaborated a lot so that when you start listening and you even short data, the first 10-15 minutes captures a lot for you. That is how I presented the content, and now we are putting in more flesh. Please read metaethics.
Branches of ethics. 1. Metaethics. A branch of philosophy concerned with the foundation of ethics and especially with the definition of ethical terms and the nature of moral discourse.
Very good.
This branch of
ologies and isms, theology, cosmology, theology. You see all the ologies. So the person's book was titled Ologies, something ologies, and isms. That's the book that has it there. Okay. Now this branch has done what? Go on, please.
This branch of ethics examines the meaning of ethical terms such as good, bad, virtue, moral, immoral, as well as the meaning of moral statements or judgments. what it means to say, example, rape is immoral. Is this judgment true? How can it be justified?
Very good. Well done. So this is meta-ethics. What is important there is when you are doing, ethics, and you are interested in the meanings of ethical terms or ethical judgment, what it means, clarification, language, you see that, they are doing meta-ethics. But you could also do ethics, look on my screen, everyone, please, normatively. It means you are not so much keen on the meanings per se, but you are looking at the formulations. I said all this, how the ethical claims and judgment and principles have been formulated. You're looking at evaluating the moral standards or theories of ethics. Then you are doing normative ethics. Then where you apply them, the principles, to real life situations like abortion, euthanasia. Euthanasia means mercy killing, kill the person out of mercy so that they will go. Sometimes the person has become a vegetable, it's very weak. Not very weak, he's really dead. Just that you don't know how to say that. He can't survive, but he hasn't gone. And the life machine is on the person. Sometimes military at the war front, the guy has been shot badly, the opponents are coming, he can't go with you. If you leave him and the opponent grab him, the way they will torment him. So he'll tell you, please shoot me. Just shoot me. Sometimes so it's killing out of mercy. That's what euthanasia is. You see it on the board there. I want you to understand them. Abortion, euthanasia, war, punishment. So when we are engaging those practical applications of the conceptual ethical theories, then we say we are doing what? Applied ethics. So bioethics and what have you are in this frame. Okay. Now an ethical question to reflect on. I'm sure most of you read it. How many read it? Well, let me have one of you read it. So Ressa, read the whole thing for someone who may never have heard of the course called philosophical questions in their life. Let them hear you read it. Then we can move on. Ressa, you are muted.
Ethics discussion. Question 1.
Okay.
Ejabentum's religious persuasion abolished blood transfusions, but doctors believe he will die without a transfusion since he has already been resuscitated twice using CPR.
Yeah.
Using CPR after heart attacks. Another CPR, in the strong view of his specialist doctors, would be medically fatal without the option of a blood transfusion. Yet, his family head, children and wife are willing to sign for the transfusion. Eja insists on no transfusion, refuses to sign a do not resuscitate order, but still hopes to live as long as possible. The doctor brings the issue to the Medical Ethics Committee, which you heard for deliberation and decision. What will be your decision to resolve this ethical dilemma? Will you favor patient autonomy over the principle of
non-maleficence?
Principle of non-maleficence. Okay. Would you admit the family decision, which is opposed to the decision of the patient himself, in the name of ensuring beneficence? Why?
Well done. Well done. You read it well. You in alumni adofo. And assembly now this is the subject matter. It is a discussion question. It means that he's supposed to set us off. I see all the reactions, Rose, Tete, Nima, and Esther. I see all your reactions. That is the subject matter. What should you see there? I think you heard everything. The guy says, I don't want blood. The caregiver, I already explained who the caregiver is, the physician, whoever. For this one, it to be a medical doctor or a surgeon. Says, I cannot do anything to help you, medically speaking, if we don't transfuse blood. Because the one that I would have used to ginger you, the CPR, we've done it twice to resuscitate you. If we do the third time, we'll kill you. It's an electrocution. We will let you kill you. You will die medically. So allow us give you some blood to give you some money so that we can do that. I say, no, I don't take blood. Now, the question of interest ethically to us, you see that is the medical folk. This is hospital, but the philosopher has entered that place. We are doing philosophy as a second order activity now. We are interested in the ethics of it. Will you, if you were the head of the what? Medical ethics committee of that company, you may not be a doctor, and yet you could be the head, the consultant, overseeing the ethics of the hospital's management. You see that the ethics of it. So if it got to your table with your team quickly that this is the issue we have, listen, will you favor patient autonomy over and above the principle of what? Non-maleficence and beneficence? Now, because a discussion question, it tells you that you would have to know what is this thing called patient autonomy that the doc has put in this thing. What is the principle of non-maleficence? What is beneficence? Because if I know them, then I can look at this context and be able to what? Make a philosophical contribution to it. And so that sets us up to presentation 4. A quick read through the outline. My lady, go on. Read it quickly for me. You're muted, please. So read. Unmute and read. Grace, I see you. I want you to read. Please start now. I couldn't hear you earlier.
Okay. Informed consent, autonomy and ethics. Introduction. Understanding informed consent and as an ethical issue in medicine, bioethics. The process of informed consent must follow. Why informed consent? Patient autonomy. Duty of the caregiver. Beneficence and non-maleficence. The ethical dilemma. A proposed response. Ajay and Miles. Relational personhood.
Very good. So in this one, on informed consent, we'll introduce ourselves to the concept of informed consent, autonomy, and ethics. Then we'll understand informed consent. All this will be done in about 10-15 minutes. The rest will be elaboration. That's all. We'll understand informed consent as an ethical issue in bioethics. We will understand the pattern that we are required as caregivers, if we were to find ourselves in that position, to ensure. What is the pattern? 4 steps that we'll summarize shortly. You have to ensure those 4 steps are obeyed and adhered to. Why do we need informed consent? If we don't understand the why, we may overlook it and think that it's not important. What is important is the person receiving help from the expert. He's not an expert, so you should shut up and let us show him what the right thing is. No, you don't understand. Then the duty of the caregiver is twofold. The ensuring beneficence and non-maleficence. What are they? Then we show an ethical dilemma again and propose an alternative. Now, just to sum it up nicely, whilst you do the reading yourself, listen. If you seek to give any kind of care, so medical, you may be the auntie taking care of that small girl, giving him or her medicine. Human beings are not animals. Ortega told you, the human being is not like a stone. Human beings have choice. Human beings have dignity. Human beings are multifaceted. They have an extra natural part. You cannot give a medicine that you believe is very efficacious that has pork in it. Maybe it was produced from pork oil or something. And you're giving it to someone who is an avowed Muslim, doesn't eat pork. And you say, oh, doesn't matter. Look, put it in there. You say he doesn't like it. You have to respect that. See, a starting point. Don't treat it as so a The guy said he doesn't like blood transfusion. It's been true. Mentally competent people, there we go, on your screen now, must be consulted as a matter of ethical and legal requirement. It's not optional. When you decide an interventional, or if you like, diagnostic or therapeutic, whatever, that you think the person should be given. So let's use very simple language. You think that the person should cut off those tubes because she has given birth too many times. Every year she's here with a pregnancy, she deliver. And you feel that her womb is getting weak. When you were operating on her, you feel that no, she's so weak, no problem. It is your duty to tell her that, hey, if you come again with pregnancy next year, you are giving birth every year. The thing is very weak. I fear for you. Tell her that that's your task. Give her, look on my screen now, make sure she understood it. So I'm putting informed consent in simple language for you. Make sure the sister understood what you just told her. Because she may be looking for Bedujan, the 10th child, so she can be the husband's queen and rule with him. It is not your duty to say about this one. Is that the reason why? Is that the reason you, this book long you are learning plate? You think it's everybody that appreciates this length of time in school that you value like that? Some think you should stop and go and sell something, cry and be a wife. That's what matters. Give birth to children. Ajawa could school, could PhD, the professor, no show. You value it because you think it's valuable. Someone values the Bedujan, the 10th child award. They give a goat or sheep or something than what you think is valuable. So let people decide that. But the challenge is you are the expert. The person has come to you for a reason. If the person was at home, you wouldn't have interfered with their lives. But they have come to your pharmacy or to your hospital or to your herbal outfit. So you have a responsibility now as a caregiver to ensure that you give them what will benefit them. That's the word. You ensure beneficence. That's the ethical principle of what? Beneficence. What does it mean? The caregiver must ensure that he or she is doing that which benefits the patient. Then you must also ensure that you don't do that which hurts the patient. Mal means, think of malaria, negative. So don't harm, non-maleficent. Don't do that which will harm the patient. Ensure that also. So you should do what will make him benefit the patient. Principle of beneficence, ensure that. Then ensure that you don't do that which will harm the patient. Do not overlook what the principle of non-maleficence. That's true. Yet the requirement is in ensuring both this and that, make sure you have involved the patient and the patient has, look on my screen please, has consented to. Not mere consent. That's the note I've put there. Where you say, oh, sign this signature. When the lady is in labor, sign here, sign here. If you sign here, I think the sister is pushing. She's not reading anything you have put on the paper. She just signed. Not knowing, you said, after labor, because of the nature of your whatever, we are cutting off your womb. She has signed. She consented, but it wasn't an informed consent. You have removed her womb. Informed consent means the person had the adequate requisite, look on my screen now, information clearly communicated to her at a time that she had clarity of mind and reasoning. She was mentally competent. Not when the woman is in labor and is saying, Kofi Papa, God will punish you. Kofi Papa is her husband. Remember, right after the delivery, when the pain capsizes, she's looking for Kofi Papa to come and show the baby to. That time that she's shouting like that, Ade, when you bring paper for her to sign, you didn't give her the opportunity to give an informed consent. That's not what you did. It's not when the mentally sick person or someone who is drunk and was involved in an accident came to your hospital And if you look at the emergency of whatever around the testicles area, you just cut off the testicles and stitch the rest, whatever is left there to save his life. Hey, boss, what have you done? When the brother wakes up with the alcohol off, you are in trouble. African man. You say, oh, but I have to make him survive. He must survive. Survive. Hey, without testicles. African man. He will say, no, then let me die rather. Maybe he would have considered another option. He would have gone for herbal something or whatever. You see that? So it's not in your place to make that decision for the person, of course, unless it was an emergency. Even how do you determine emergency? Could you have given a first aid? Could you have pulled out the alcohol from his system? There's a medical a possibility for that. Could the surgery had been kept for days so that the guy will be revived? He will have the opportunity to reflect around the options, look on your screen, and make a voluntary decision. Or you think that you are the boss, you are the doctor, you are the grandchild taking care of grandma. So you have tied grandma to the seat and you have opened her mouth and you are pouring the porridge in because she must eat. Even when she's saying, this morning I don't feel for food. So I'm going for ethics class. Open your mouth. Because in your mind, you think eating food is good for her. Yes, but she says, I don't want to eat this morning. Can you find alternative ways of respecting her person and yet making her eat? Rather than tying her like an animal because she will run away or because she has become a little bit delusional, she might leave home. So you have tied her to a seat in a room and locked up nicely. You're coming to learn what? Informed consent. It won't stick. When you learn it, it won't stick. It's not the case. You have to treat her with dignity. Informed consent is hinged on what? The dignity of the human person, whether rich or poor. So far as the person is human, you accord him or her respect for her person. That is why you are interested in whether she agrees to the procedure or not. Is it plastic surgery the person wants? Let her know. Look on the screen, I've moved slides. That she has options. Do you want to amputate? You see how I said it? Don't use big English that the person cannot clearly, look on the highlighted portion on my screen, cannot clearly understand it. Tell the person, I mean, we will cut off the leg because it has become overly rotten because of the diabetes. We could work out a replacement of a kind, which will not be naturally used, but that will save you rather than rotting all the way up to your upper body. Don't go speaking amputate and ask the woman amputate, open his hand, and they'll say, oh, doctor, you there, you are the one who knows that you amputate, and I'll take it like that. Thinking that it is a new medicine that is better or expensive. Don't know amputate means you are cutting it off. You see, so clearly communicate in a language easily understood by them. One, make it clear and let the person appreciate why the treatment is being offered. Maybe if we don't do it, it will climb all the way up to your body. The potential risk and benefits, and let the person know the alternatives to the proposed therapy. The point of the alternative is that you must make the person choose whether they want to align themselves with the option you have given. You don't want to insist that your option is the one that the person must choose. That is the point. Why? Because there might be alternatives. So if you make the person know that, well, you could also consider going to India. I mean, there's a procedure at India that works. There are people that will consider rather go, like if it's family planning, they might say, okay, look, some cut off the womb, others tie it, some take pill, some will do the the condom. The reasons for all this is that so and so and so and so. You may consider this because of your family situation. It is a consideration you present to the person because it's not a stone. It's not a thing to treat like you are the boss. So if the thing goes this way for you, it must go that way for after all, you are the expect other. See the challenge? So where there are options, let the person know. And then that summarizes the point. So there must be understanding of what the medical decision is. There must be the clarity of purpose. What is the purpose? Not that you have imported some antibiotics as a hospital. So you want to sell it. If the person comes and even has headache, you give antibiotics. When the person comes, hey, bring the antibiotic because you are selling. What is the purpose of that medication? Okay. Don't insist. The person is a vegan. He doesn't take anything fish, anything whatever. Then you say, I'm giving you cod liver oil. Cod is a fish. Its oil is the fish's oil. The guy says, I don't do anything fish or its product. Don't say, hey, and then you people too, how will we, madam, can there be another food supplement? That is not part of your duty. You are not there to show people how they should eat. Unless the person is there for diet. Even for diet, there can be alternative to cod liver oil as a supplement. I'm showing you that have that posture. Don't have a paternalistic bosu headmaster posture that says, do this and not that. As if that is all. And then show the risk. The sister wants plastic surgery extension. Show the risk involved. Oh, it will make you nice. You have fine hips, but it could melt. This particular one can melt. If you don't do this one, it can drop. This one, let the person know. Then she will decide if she wants that. Don't go cutting people's fallopian tubes and tying them. That look, I saved you. If it wasn't me, hey, how can you give birth to 9 children every year? One. You want to die? It's not your place, also. Yours is to tell the person, especially where there is opportunity to. Now we are going slowly to the place where we can have the ethical dilemmas, tensions, difficulties, challenges, where you really wish you could tell her, but there is no time because the emergency that was brought to the hospital shows that if you don't cut that tube and tie it quickly, she will bleed to death. Tie it and then heal the portions that are left. So you are in a dilemma. We'll get there shortly. Also show the patient the right to withdraw from the study or the procedure. Don't say, but you said you do it. We have paid everything that we have to do. Now you say you not do it. Is it by force? Know that the patient or the person involved has the right to say, I do not want to continue again. It is important to do that as what? Ensuring informed consent. Then what? Maintain confidentiality of the person's information. And this one, I made a note of that when I played the one I've sent to you on our ex-president of blessed memory. You will see that people were interested. What is wrong with him? You have to let us know. You have to let us know that if he was your uncle, would you like that? That his private health condition should be made public. Why? It's a matter of patient confidentiality. The person leaves your office and then the next person comes and say, hey, that guy has HIV. His HIV is not good. Sir, next time the person will infect you, he will come and rape you, the doctor or the nurse or the health giver, for you to be like him. So that now you can open your mouth and talk about his rape, his whatever age that he has. The point then is what? Maintain the confidentiality of that. You see, the work of the health giver, it's not easy. The caregiver has a huge task. Even in doing all this, you are supposed to also maintain the confidentiality. How do you seek help? Make sure you do that when it will benefit him. Don't harm him. Hear his point of view of the matter, and yet keep his medical information and personal identification, demographic, and what have you, private, confidential. It's a huge task. I want you to read this for me, my lady. Who is reading now? Okay, it's fine. I think we can now move to Charity. Aqua Ado. Charity Ado. Charity, please read this one for me. Okay.
Oh, everything. The parting, the process of informed consent should follow. Simply put, the process of informed consent should follow this pattern: disclosure, comprehension, analytical competence, voluntary consent, or refusal. Why informed consent? Patient autonomy. The requirement of informed consent only underscores respect for the care seeker's right to autonomous decision, to refuse treatment or therapy on religious, cultural, or other grounds because they are competent to choose to do so. It secures the patient's autonomy as a human person against imposition. Observing patient autonomy, freedom and rights through the affirmation of a right to information and to self-determination underscores the dignity of the human person.
Very good. I had muted my mic and I was speaking. Very good. The whole point then is you want to make sure that you are treating a human being as a person. Look, I've said it earlier and I want to repeat it. Even God did not make us a programmed machine that does what he likes all the time. No, they're not machines. So when the grandma says, this morning I don't feel for the food, maybe she's playing a difficult again. Ask, what about Coco? No, what about porridge? Will you take porridge? I don't want to eat. And you know that maybe she's in that her mood, which can go again, like the way sometimes children behave. Or let's go and work a little and come. You eat only one for me. Only one. Only one. I mean, try that. The point I'm making is don't make it look like you eat. Look, I don't have time. Oh. You have to eat and take the medicine. How will you take medicine without eating? Is it you eat? That's it in there. Waste of time. Look at this. Hold their hand. Now much I bring then you tie her. It will not be well with you. Oh yes. But what about if the person is we are going there? I know I know that people have legitimate questions, treating people as human. The guy has gotten broken heart. And so, excuse me, I want to be blunt, and become mad. Mentally sick. In fact, derailed. If we are not, we can hurt anybody. We can just pull the knife from the kitchen, start. Then we have taken the person to Ankafu or somewhere. Are you going to tell me that informed consent? That is a legitimate question. Which consent is he going to give? The person is not analytically competent. We are going there. This slide that you see now only summarizes what I said earlier: beneficence and non-maleficence. Okay, what it says. So when you read, you firm it up again. I've already elaborated on that. Then the next is the ethical dilemma. Please, my dear, read the ethical dilemma and let's see.
The ethical dilemma. There is a fundamental ethical dilemma entailed in the simultaneous demand for understood or informed consent on the one hand, and the requirement for beneficence and non-maleficence on the other. Note: informed consent requires that the patient be competent, understands the choice.
Understands the choice. Continue.
Yet, the patient is at the same time expected to depend on the competent other, physician, for knowledge, which influences or dictates her supposed informed choice of consent or refusal. This means the patient is already assumed to be incompetent. The dilemma then is how to determine whether a choice of consent or refusal made is actually an informed one.
I hope you get the point now. So before I left my home and came into your pharmacy shop to buy the medicine, I am already assuming that I'm incompetent. Or I came into your hospital. I cannot do it. That's why I came to you. I don't know it. That's why I came to you. For me to even make a choice that is my consenting choice, I would have to depend on you. So where is this thing that still insists that my choice must come? It's a tension. If you go and listen to the patient who already from home doesn't know, is incompetent in the subject matter, how will you then be able to ensure? Then it brings us to the next dilemma: beneficence. How will you do that which benefits the patient when he is already assumed to be incompetent from start? That's why he's coming to you, the competent other. That's a challenge. See that it's a tension there. So we want to be minded as ethical folks that some of the matters are gray areas. They are not clearly white or clearly black. They are subtle. You have to reflectively make a decision to determine which one you will work with. Yesterday, a lady asked in class, "Stop, what if a lady is pregnant? The doctor checks and tells her, look, this child, if it comes out to be deformed, there are complications because of the bleeding you had in the accident, blah, blah, blah. It will not form well. So if we wash this out, you can have another attempt at a child." The woman says, no, I know my Redeemer liveth. The family says, about it. The person herself says, no, keep the baby. The competent other says, what I see there, you may have a deformed child who can't do anything. You will have to do everything for that child and bear all the stigma, quote and unquote, that's associated with that. Your choice. What do you do? If the person is fit, and it's not just mentally, you know, people are so attached to something sometimes. They might say, no, don't take my child from me. Say, it's not a child. As it is now, it has become different. It can't be called a child, sir. You have options. Say, no, please. It might be that she's going through a psychological trauma. Give time, where there is the possibility of time. But some of the instances, the expert would have to veto and be accountable. That's the part that hospitals don't like. Sometimes they may ask for a referral. They say, then this place, this is how we do. We do CS for all pregnancies that come to us. It's a heart condition. We give blood. So just in case you don't want to, then we may have to refer you to an alternative place. We'll tell them these are your records. Then they may take a chance. So some people will pass it on to others. Others will insist and do it for you. But you could sue them big time, like the sister who was so angry that they shaved her before delivering her of her child. He said, who told you to touch the hair at my area? It is the thing that symbolizes my authority in the cause that I'm in. Which I'm a power in. The person didn't speak to you. I just want to make it fun. Listen. And so the bouncy baby boy that they had delivered for her wasn't her focus. Why did you shave her without her permission? She came with all the place bush. Can get a crantier, in the bush there. And so the people thought, oh, this one there will be infection if we deliver the baby. They shaved everything. Say, hey, that was the authority just shaved. They didn't ask me. Really? Shaving too? So the point is, if you can, and she could have sued the company. This one, I heard it in a discussion at the medical. That, listen, so in such a scenario, that's the question you're asking. Which should be given priority over which and why? Would you go for beneficence? That's the discussion question that we set up. Will you go for beneficence over non-beneficence, or patient autonomy, confidentiality, or what? Ajay and Miles, that's where our paper comes in. Suggests that where the person is incapacitated and the decision making is so difficult, or he's not sick mentally, sir, but he's not in the right psychological frame. I used the Isudanaba example the last time. I said, one time at once, more than Job, you are at a crusade ground. Then you receive news that your children and your church, folks have died in an accident. When you are on the field, I think it was church, not crusade, whatever, a church setting. The man wasn't, at that moment, perhaps he would be spiritually sound and okay, but physically and psychologically, it wouldn't have been normal for you to ask for anything meaningful from that person. So he's not sick as in mentally sick at the hospital, but the psychological frame, like a woman in labor, like a drunk person, whatever, is not apt. So in that scenario, Ajay and Mal suggest that, look, the autonomy of the person, because of how we conceive of personhood in the African conception, personhood is not just the individual. You are your mother's daughter, you are your father's daughter, you are your pastor's, member, or you are the priest's, whatever. So it is more relational. Your personhood is relational. You are relationally identified. When you go to Nigeria, they will ask you, whose son are you? When you are talking, like they don't say, who are you? One abano. That's so the thing we say, I am because we are, and since we are, therefore, is predominantly African, and therefore it doesn't have to take the you exactly to ensure autonomy or respect for autonomy. See, informed consent. It can be your relational other. That is the key argumentation in the Miles and Ajay paper. Except that the authors are conscious of the possibility of abuse. If you go and ask the uncle, and the uncle has an interest because his nephew has so much property, he might say, oh, I think that you should just let him go. He has stayed for 2 days. The life machine, he has been there. Just unplug it, let him die. As if that is what the person would have wanted, not knowing he's waiting to share the properties. So if the guy dies early, then we can share. It's a possibility. So it can be abused. When the person himself is not making the decision, that can be abused. But the point is, so can the doctor also abuse it. He can receive bribe. Then he can say, oh, this is the only option. So it has to be this, because it will feed into what the briber wants. Okay, so either way, that's, in other words, delegated autonomy. You pass it on to someone, could be abused. But the family one, the family here, I like to use the immediate other. It may not necessarily be blood family. If you were outside in, say, Dubai or somewhere, some far away, Jordan, somewhere, applying a trade so that you survive and bring money home, come and do ISM. Over there, you may be there with friends. No family member, friends. So that friend, in such a scenario, a proposal is, can stand in and be what? The relational other that acts as you and makes the decision for you. After all, because personhood in the African conception is not individuality, it is a collection of individuality. That's what we are saying here, and communality blended into a whole. So you are yourself and your relational others all together. So if mommy makes that decision for you, it can still be a respect for your person. And that is what happens. Okay, oftentimes, as soon as the person comes to the hospital, you see, just in case you are in a dire situation, fill this form. Let us know who you think we should consult. So some will say, consult my husband. Some will say, please call my pastor. Some will say, my grandmother is the best person. A man may be living with a wife and will say, when I'm in such a situation, call my lawyer to make a decision. Don't say that. Why should it be your lawyer? It has to be your lawyer. Why? Is it your decision? You can only advise. Oh, don't you think your wife is the one that will be in the room with you? And maybe if you get a truthful person, you might tell my wife is interested in my properties. It might be a woman. You should say, when I'm in this situation, call my uncle. My husband, no. My husband knows my investment. And I don't trust him. I say I just lay around with him a lot. If you go ask him, you say kill me so that I will benefit from my property. In all that, we are saying that we don't want to undermine the essential and fundamental inalienable dimension of patient individuality. That one we don't want to happen. But we are still able to help. So this last slide says, this path may also have its own problems. Look on your screen. Or maybe someone should read that. Let me take a last reader. Everyone has done well. So I'll take Bernard. The Bernard I see. Okay, Rosemary. Rosemary, read for me. The last slide. Then I will stop the recording and we'll discuss. You are muted, my lady, so please raise your hand.
Okay.
Quiet.
Reflections and references. This part may also have its own problems. The family could send the patient in coma off to an early grave so that his or her inheritance can be disbursed earlier than
she
he wishes.
she wishes. That's she or
wishes.
he. Eh?
Okay. Yet the same doubts can be raised of the competent physician also if she has to make the decision. Pay to kill medically. What do you think?
Exactly. There are questions. So if it is possible for even the expert to be corrupted and to have ill motive, then it means that we when we stretch the argument to that place, then we can't even help anybody who is in the position of incompetence. Okay. But those that can competently make their decision, we insist, as required by law and ethics, that you seek their informed consent, even in your pursuit of beneficence and non-maleficence, to give care. I am done. Any questions? Very good. I think the class was well comported. Well done. I hope you behave that way on your WhatsApp platform too. It is not a right there, like I said, it's just a privilege. So that, like what happened this morning, I'm able to quickly engage with you and with you there, and then blah blah blah. Okay, so you manage yourself well. We have had fun. I saw people react. There are reactions on the screen. You can even unmute and laugh a little and go back. It's fine. But where people come and sell health product on a platform, I'll dissolve it immediately. You don't know the use of the platform. Anyway, so any questions? I see Yakes's hand. I think we should stop the recording so that it doesn't become too long and then engage the discussions. We are done very well. Okay. Yakes, go ahead with your question.